Amy McGrath, your story is all about serving your country, the United States of America, and about putting country over party, about community and courage, about stepping up when the stakes are high and the mission is tough. It's about you deciding to run again for the US Senate for Kentucky in 2026. It is about standing up to your current administration in a really bold and fearless manner. You are a veteran fighter pilot, and you have done that for over 20 years. You're a wife, a mom, a proud Kentuckian. You're the first woman to ever fly a combat mission in an FA-18. You worked at the Pentagon and Capitol Hill working to shape America's national security. You describe yourself as battle tested both in combat and in Washington. You have been toe to toe with Washington's insiders. You know how to build a campaign strong enough to go against the powerful special interests in Washington, often lined against you and many others. You want to stand up for Kentuckians. Amy, welcome to WeCan. Thank you for taking the time to role model for us today. We are really excited to have you. We're excited to hear about your story and how you got to where you are today. Amy, do you want to start by saying what you stand for?
Sure. Look, well, thanks for having me on first. I think that a lot of Americans right now and a lot of Kentuckians are kind of ticked off and angry about the way our country or my country is headed. And they have a right to be. We're seeing a lot of dangerous things, not normal things from our president right now. And part of our system in the United States of America is this co-equal branch of government called
Mhm.
the United States Congress, which the Senate is a part of.
Yeah.
And Kentucky has an open seat right now for the United States Senate, which is what I'm running for. And Kentucky deserves someone in that seat who has courage and is decent. And I think right now, Kentucky needs and deserves somebody who's going to stand up for everyday Kentuckians and not just be at the whim of one man or one party. And so, what do I mean by that? And when you ask what I stand for, you know, the big thing is right now affordability,
Mm,
because the president has instituted tariffs that
yeah.
hurt people. They hurt our businesses. The bourbon industry is very big in Kentucky.
Yeah.
All right, that's an important piece. Manufacturing, farmers, all that stuff hurt our economy and hurt our people.
Yeah.
And so to be able to stand up and say, this is not the right policy, this is wrong. And then the healthcare piece, which is really big because of my background, because my mother being a physician, uh, to stand up and say, look, I'm always going to be somebody that stands up for healthcare for Americans and for Kentuckians. And I think that is really important right now. Those are the two big things that I talk about a lot in this race.
Amy, I love how you lead. You lead with real facts, okay? This is something that we don't see a lot of right now. And so tell us a little bit what you campaign for is those 2 points. How will you campaign? What will you put at the center of it? And you've run before. So what are your sort of main lessons or takeaways from having done this before?
Sure. Well, the main thing is, as I mentioned, Kentucky deserves a fighter, not a coward, not somebody who's going to bow down. I think right now there's a lot of people who are going to just go along with what the president says, even if it hurts people here.
Mm,
And so what we're seeing from folks in power right now is not what most Kentuckians voted for. Most Kentuckians didn't vote for higher prices. They didn't vote for taxes in the form of tariffs. They didn't vote for 35 of our rural hospitals to close. But that's exactly what we're getting. So it's about being a truth teller. It's about going and saying, this isn't what we voted for.
yeah.
And in order to stop it, you're going to have to check this president. You're going to have somebody that stands up for you. Okay. So that's the major piece of what I am running on and what I talk about right now. And in terms of running again, look, I mean, lots of people have to run many times times
Mm,
to get in. Politics isn't always just about the issues. It's
yeah.
about sometimes it's about name recognition. Sometimes it's about what's happening all around. And so, I always tell people, look at Steve Bashir, who was our
Mm,
former governor here. He ran many times before he was elected. Bernie Sanders ran many times.
yeah.
He's a senator from Vermont. So what did I learn in the previous? I learned you got to get a good team.
Mm,
I learned that for me, you always stand for what's right. You do your very best to be a person of integrity, no matter what. And you may not win every fight, but for me, that's how I sleep at night. I am somebody of integrity, believe that, and I stand up for what I believe in. In other words, not be somebody that just blows with the wind. Does that make sense?
yes, that's very important, Amy. Yes, and I want to say to that because we don't see a lot of this kind of leadership right now, and it's very important. And I always say to all Americans, this is obviously happening to you, but it is happening to everybody else as well. With America being the leading power in the world, it destabilizes the world at large. It has a lot of repercussions. I mean, this type of leadership that we are seeing right now is not only destructive in the US, it is actually destructive all over the world. And we see lots of repercussions in England, right? So it's very important that we rebalance the Senate and Congress. Is something you talk about. Can you talk to us about why that is so important?
Yeah. Well, our country has these three branches of government, and they are co-equal. Right now, they're not, though.
Yeah.
And it's hurting our country, as you mentioned. It's hurting the world.
Yeah.
I would argue it's also hurting my state in Kentucky with these. The tariffs are one example of that. Just one, maybe small, but kind of big for us. When the president unilaterally invokes tariffs, in our Constitution, the president is not allowed to do that.
Yeah.
In our Constitution, it's Congress that the founders back in the 1700s gave that power to Congress. But right now, Congress is filled with cowards
Mm.
that are unwilling to stand up to this president because they care more about their political party and more about their seats than they do about doing their jobs. And that has to change. All right. And that's just in one. Another area of concern of mine, which is very deep from my background, is national security.
Yeah.
Right now, we're seeing unilateral orders to our military to execute people on the high seas off the coast of Venezuela. We don't have, our government hasn't given us evidence that these folks are as bad as they say they are.
Mm.
And there's been no authorization for the use of force. That comes from Congress. The president is executes and is the commander in chief, but Congress is the one that declares war.
Yeah.
And that hasn't happened. And that's very important because in our country, the president has the obligation to go to the American people and say, this is why we have to go to war. This is why I'm going to put your sons and daughters in harm's way. And that mechanism, Stephanie, is through Congress.
Yeah.
That's how the president makes that case. And he hasn't done that. And so those are just two. I could rattle off many concerns, but those are just two examples of why we need a rebalance.
Those checks and balances that were there beforehand are just not in place right now, Amy, right? And I'm thinking, how can we, or how can America put people first again? Because the thing that we forget is that a government is only as strong as the people who participate, right? The citizens of any country, with the taxes that we pay and with the things that we give to the government, they are then able to run all the different things that they do. So this is a give and take. And we often forget that every single person in a country is participating to this team sport, because it's not a spectator sport, this democracy, this thing that we call democracy that is so important for all of us. So tell us a little bit, how do you think one can change this around and A, empower people to think that they all can make a difference, and B, to put the people first again, because we see too many actions where the US administration is really going against people. It has a bully nature. I mean, there are terrible scenes coming out of America right now, which encourages other people around the world who come from the far right to do the same things. Because it's not just about America, it is also about showing others that this is possible and this is okay.
Well, I think it's a real challenge. And I think the first thing that people need to do is continue to pay attention.
Mm,
Don't just put your head in the sand and say, it's not for me. I don't care about politics. No, no. Politics is about people.
yeah,
Politics is us.
yeah.
It can't be a nasty word. You have to get involved.
Mm,
It's about people's it here. I'll give you one example. Here in Kentucky, it is about, and in America, it's about the difference between life and death.
yeah.
Let me just talk about healthcare. You
Mm,
know, the politics about on healthcare is real. This administration and a lot of people who are in office right now in America, they made promises to the American people. They said they were not going to go after Medicare and Medicaid.
yeah.
Are government plans to help the elderly
Mm,
and to help people in need to get health care. They said they wouldn't go after things like in our state, Connect, which is the affordable, we have the Affordable Care Act. It
yeah,
allows people, many Kentuckians for the first time, to ever get health insurance.
yeah.
And so if you are somebody that believes that everybody deserves affordable health care, um, you got to stand up right now, because there's people who could are on cancer treatments who are going to get their health care and insurance taken away. That's devastating.
Yeah.
That's devastating. And here in Kentucky, we're about ready to lose 200,000 Kentuckians about ready to lose insurance um, because of what these guys passed. 35 rural hospitals are about ready to close because they won't have the funding to stay open. That is a matter of life and death. If you're living in a rural county and your dad has a heart attack, right now, you might have to drive him 15 minutes to the hospital. In a year or two, that hospital might be gone.
Mm,
And now you might have to drive him, 3 hours. That's the difference between life and death.
yeah.
We're the United States is one of the richest countries on earth. What are we doing? And so that's politics. And so I say to people, you can't check out. You got to stay involved.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
What are other realities now in Kentucky, Amy? I mean, there's the food program, right? These are the food stamps. And with this government shutdown, there is so much upheaval and uncertainty that must be unbelievably stressful for people who rely on those services.
Yes. So what are called the SNAP benefits. This is help to put food on the table for the neediest Americans.
Yeah.
And this comes back for me and probably for many of your listeners to the basics of faith, right?
Mm,
You take care of people who are less fortunate. And a lot of people, it's temporary. Maybe they lost their job. Maybe something happened where they're dealing with the recovery from a health incident where they can't have a job for another year. I mean, and they need help. And we're cutting this. And a lot of the people that are on these benefits are elderly. They're veterans. Many are children. And we have a president that has to be forced to take the money that's already allocated for emergency funds. For this very reason, we have emergency funds in the United States to be able to cover this in the event that there's a problem with the Congress and funding. And he didn't want to give it to Americans. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And if you take that back over to Congress, the other co-equal branch, which is not being a co-equal branch right now, a lot of those guys are not standing up for Kentuckians. So that's just one example. The other is this bill that was passed in the summer that I mentioned takes away so many jobs and healthcare for people. We're looking at 20,000 healthcare jobs in Kentucky because when healthcare goes away, it's not just the care that goes away to people that need it, it's also the jobs associated, the physical therapists, the people that give the healthcare. This is just wrong. It's just flat out wrong.
Amy, which is why you're running again. Now, tell us a little bit how that came about. Talk to us a little bit about your journey, about those pivotal points that led you to where you are today. And I think I've heard, and when I researched you, I heard that your son was the one who encouraged you to run again. So, talk to us a bit about your story and your journey.
Sure. So, I've spent my life defending this country. And when you get to my age and you sort of look back and you're like, what is my life really all about? Since I was a kid, I was about defending my country. And that's why I left home at the age of 18, raised my right hand, swore an oath to defend the Constitution in the United States military. I got a chance to follow my dreams, which is to fly fighter jets. And that was great, but it was about defending the country. And being a Marine taught me how to fight, but being a mom taught me a lot more about caring. And I think my country needs a lot more of both of those right now. Somebody who can fight and somebody also that has that caring background, And my son, who is 13, who's really the only child of mine, I have 3 children, 13, 11, and 9, who really remembers my running for office in the past. And he was the one who said, Mom, you've always stood for your beliefs. You were always somebody that isn't afraid to do the hard things. You should do this again. And part of me, was like, I'm not sure I want to do the hard thing again, but ultimately we have to. Because the people who really make a difference in this world are the ones that aren't afraid. They aren't afraid to look bad. They aren't afraid to be uncomfortable. They aren't afraid to stand for their beliefs, even when they are criticized. That takes courage. I always said it takes a lot more courage to run for office than it does to strap on a $70 million jet to your back and fly a fighter jet. It does. But that's what our country needs. That's what America needs right now. People with courage.
Yeah. Amy, so what kind of a leader are you? How would you describe your type of leadership?
Well, I would say what I learned about leadership, I learned in the United States Marine Corps. And the first, most basic thing is that leadership is service. It's not about being king. It's not about, my way or the highway. It's about serving. And so in the Marine Corps, leaders are the ones that get served last. They eat last. They make sure everybody else is clothed first. They're the ones that when there's something hard to do, they're the ones that are the first to do it. Okay. And that is kind of the way I look at things. I think good leaders have 3 really important traits. The first one is competence. I never want to follow a leader that I don't think he or she knows what they're doing or knows how to do it. So you got to be competent. And that is certainly something that I took from being a fighter pilot. I mean, you got to know the jet, you got to know your tactics. If you're going to be the one leading, everybody knows who's good and who's not. Competence. The second thing is vision. You got to know where you're going. What are you defending? How are you going to get there? So you got to have a vision. And the third thing, which is probably the most important, is integrity. The best leaders I've found are the ones not that don't make mistakes. Heck, I make a lot of mistakes. But the ones who in their heart know what they're doing, and are persons of integrity.
Yeah.
They're not people, as I mentioned earlier, who sort of blow wherever the political winds blow. They know what they stand for, and they're going to be honest with
Yeah.
people. And that's what I try to do.
Honest and owning up, taking responsibility. Yeah, all of those things that really are missing right now. So, Amy, what will success look like for you?
I think for me, obviously, I want to win this Senate seat for Kentucky and for this country. And that's really important. And it's not for me, it's for my state and for the people here and for our country.
Yeah.
But I think broadly in my life, it's about making a difference.
Mm.
And if you can look back and you can say, I made a difference in a positive way, that's success. Did you matter? Did your work matter? And I often think about my children too, because that's a big part of my life. You know, am I doing the things that I need to do to make sure they are taken care of, to make sure they know they are loved, to give them the tools to go find whatever it is that drives them? Maybe it's defending this country, but maybe it's something else. Whatever it is that drives them, so that they can look back on their lives someday and say, I made a difference. I think that's what drives me.
Yeah. To create more opportunities, not less.
Mhm.
Amy,
Absolutely.
what are your non-negotiables? What are those things that just you won't that far no further?
Well, I think non-negotiables for me are things like uh, I'm always wanting to make sure that I'm being honest with
Yeah.
people. Um, I am not interested in lying to get somewhere. I'm always interested in making sure that I'm, you know, a person of integrity. And in terms of the issues, I'm somebody that I believe deeply that people deserve health care, that it should be affordable. And this comes from my mother being a lifelong physician, doctor.
Yeah.
And it also comes from my faith. If you don't have your health, you don't have anything.
Mm.
And I think that's, a non-negotiable for me. I'm not interested in taking people's health care away.
Yeah.
you know I'm also somebody that believes deeply that we as a nation in the United States need to be a powerful nation based on values.
Yeah.
And a powerful nation, I'm somebody that served in the military, so I'm not interested um, uh, in a world where the United States doesn't have some significant power.
Mm.
I think that's important. I also think we need to be led by people who understand that values matter too. And that's important for the world.
Yeah. Yes, yes, and Amy, all of that very important. And I often think, we use the word politics and people already shut down. And that's a real problem. And we need to put the power back into everyone's hand and make sure that people understand that the power does rest with them. And also that everybody understands when you have citizens who are well in themselves, they will serve the country. So when people are able to pay their bills, to put food on the table, to educate their children, to do the work that they're meant to do, or that they fall into, that means we have a political, social, and economical system that thrives. And when you take a lot of those things away, it's a very short term sort of view, because in the long term, the country will suffer, and it will suffer economically. And that is something that Americans stomach less well than anything else. And so I think that's very important to remember. Amy, I'm wondering what makes you feel aligned and powerful and strong.
I think every day when you can stand up and you know that you're doing the right thing, I think that makes me feel powerful and strong. I look back and you know, I've talked about this a little bit before, but I'm a person of faith, and my faith is a Christian faith. But that if some, it doesn't really matter to those who are listening. But there's a part of Scripture from Matthew in the New Testament that says uh, where we're talking about being well done, good and faithful servant. In other words, you do the best that you can.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, if you're somebody that is doing the right thing, you're doing a good job. You're doing the best that you can. That's motivation for me.
Yeah.
Because some days are harder than others, right? And so it's a marathon. Running a campaign is a marathon. Getting to the point where I was a fighter pilot did not happen overnight. That was also a marathon. And you take it one step at a time. So for me, that's what makes me feel powerful, is knowing that I have accomplished so many goals and overcome so many challenges in my life. They are just um, armor that I put on, and I continue to walk that path and do what I think is right. I don't know if that answers your question, but
Yes,
that's
yes,
what
that
motivates
answers
me.
the question. I think it's always interesting what different answers we get from our role models, and it just makes the listener understand what people stand for, really. You know, those it's a feeling type thing, and I think it's always interesting. Amy, what would you say? I mean, there is a lot to keep you up at night, I'm sure, right now. But you know, if you had to sort of sum it up, what keeps you up at night right now, having started this new campaign, you have a serious new goal that you've had before, but you're really going for it now. All the experiences you've made in your life are serving you now, um, running for Senate again.
Well, I think what keeps me up at night is what's always kept me up at night, which is the national security concerns, because I'm somebody who, ever since being a very young age, is was a pretty serious person.
Hmm.
When other, you know, teenagers were reading novels, I was reading about nuclear weapons. I mean, you know, and
Yeah.
and that isn't, you can say, well, that's not normal, but that just this that was just, I felt inherently this need to protect our country and in the world.
Yeah.
And I needed to understand the challenges and the threats that our world faces for humankind.
Yeah.
And so what that those types of things are all the things. And so going forward right now, I think one of the biggest challenges is our American democracy itself. The weaponization of our federal government
Yeah.
by this president in ways that I have never seen, the politicization of our United States military in ways I've never seen, the trampling of our Constitution. These are things that very much concern me. But how um, I can't completely focus on all of that, because I have to work on making sure that I can run this campaign and focus on the things that most Kentuckians care about. And so that's where my attention is right now, on things like healthcare, tariffs, affordability, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Amy, so tell us about your plans and goals. We know you're running for the Senate 2026. What are the steps to get there?
Well, in America, we have what's called a primary. So that's going to happen in May for my state, where the political parties nominate somebody for the seat,
Yeah.
and then in the general election for us is in November of next year, when you have usually two parties. Two people run for that particular seat. So the steps right now for me I campaign, which means I go out right now at this point and listen to my fellow Kentuckians, talk to as many people as I can and get the word out. And I also fundraise. Running for office in a place like the United States is very, very expensive.
Yeah.
And it's not publicly funded. So you have to go to people and you have to ask individual Americans to support this campaign. And so that's a lot of what I do right now. That's the work associated with running. Running a campaign isn't always shaking hands and kissing babies. A lot of the work is fundraising, sadly.
Yeah. And we will put the link in this in your bio on our channel. And if anyone feels called to, please donate. Amy McGrath. We have lots of listeners in the US, so that's for you. Amy, what takeaways would you like our listeners to have from your story?
I just think that the key to success is you keep going. You don't give up. There's going to be setbacks at times. But in my experience, if you really want to make a difference, you got to do the hard things. Sometimes there are things that a lot of people don't want to do. And if you choose to do them, it's not always going to be a rose garden. It's not always going to be success every time. But you keep doing it. You get up, you learn, you go at it again because it's the right thing to do and it's what drives you. And the other key takeaway I would tell people is there's a really great quote from one of our presidents, Teddy Roosevelt, who said, the critic is not the person that is watching. It's the credit belongs to the person in the arena. Yeah. And for those people who are listening, no matter what you do in life, whatever that hard thing is, you are the person doing it. You are the one in the arena. So don't take any crap from anyone else because they don't know what it's like. Yeah. And you go at it and you go do that thing. Okay. And if it doesn't work, you get back up and you do it again. That's what I would say.
Yeah. Amy, thank you so much for being with me today. Thank you so much for telling your story and sharing your insights and your beliefs. Thank you for standing up for truth and honesty and integrity. Important values we don't see enough of, and we are excited to have you on WeCan and to watch you in the next year and the next years with the things that you come up with, and we wish you all the best.
Great to be with you.